My name is Sandra Rupp, and in 2011 I was placed on the Thinkers 50 Guru Radar list for the world's top business thinkers for my thought leadership on the yin and yang of leadership. I believe that investing in and empowering the feminine leadership style in partnership with the masculine is the largest economic opportunity worldwide. Today I'd like to talk about the art of 21st century career navigation, as well as the importance of investing in what I call the feminine leadership style. I'd like to touch on the topics of conscious capitalism, sustainability, and inclusion. It's very important that we all understand that there is a new consciousness entering business thinking, and we saw the beginnings of this back in 2012, and we're seeing a lot more of it on a day-to-day basis now, and I'm so delighted to be sharing my thoughts today with all of you. There has been a significant shift going on in terms of the thinking of a lot of leaders. That shift is taking place as we see a lot of things changing in the world. First off, we are a planet with 7 billion people on its way to 8 or 9 billion people. And we need to start thinking about the resources that we have in terms of food, water, energy, and so forth, and how we're going to make for a sustainable world. We do not want to see extreme poverty on the planet. I don't think anyone who's in a leadership role wants to see people suffering. I had done a video for the Gates Foundation last year in 2013, and my question to Cannes Lions, it was for the Cannes Chimera, was, what does leadership look like to you? And this was a really important question because it's very important that we understand that the leadership is changing, both the look and feel of leadership. Leadership historically came from a masculine model, a masculine definition, because for many centuries, a lot of the leadership, certainly in the commerce and business world, was predominantly men. That shift has changed dramatically. When I attended business school back in the late 80s, 40% of my class was female. And so we have much more diversity in terms of gender. We also have a lot more diversity in the United States in terms of our demographics, whether it be talking about Hispanic community, Asian community, Black community, white community. We have a lot of diversity, and we need to make sure that voices are being heard from a lot of different perspectives. So it's very important that we think about leadership of business, when we think about board leadership, executive team leadership in business, leadership in politics, in Congress here in the United States, or what have you. It's important that we try to get more women and diversity on those leadership teams so that we can pave the way for what is called inclusive economic growth. What we don't want to do is to have just a small subset of people be growing into prospering in the economy, because in that case the economy won't be sustainable. We need to have a thriving middle class. We need to have people coming up from lower classes, moving into the middle class here in Western countries, moving into the upper classes, and making sure that there are opportunities not just for white males, but for women and for diversity, people of all backgrounds. And right now, what I'm seeing in the marketplace is a real concern, because I see not only women suffering in the business world, I also see white males suffering in the business world. There's been a real issue as the economy changed so dramatically in 2008. There were actually two economic bubbles that burst. One was the so-called new economy, the dot-com bubble back in 2002. Then we had another bubble related to real estate and mortgages, and that basically tanked in 2008. After the second economic crisis, there was a significant change in the job marketplace. I've been an executive recruiter. I was an executive recruiter in global executive search for many, many years, 18 years. And I am now in executive coaching and media presentations, and one thing I can tell you is that I have seen a dramatic shift. I have never seen more people unemployed, talented people unemployed than now. And it's kind of a silent market because it's not included in the unemployment statistics. If you look at the unemployment statistics, that is only capturing a small subset of the people who need jobs. A lot of people indeed have dropped out of the marketplace. A lot of people have not applied for unemployment because they were more senior level people who perhaps had savings. But the truth of the matter is at some point, I've seen people with MBAs and graduate degrees who were some of the most talented people in the marketplace go for jobs for 5 years. And what we found was that there were a significant percentage of people that were in their, let's say, over the age of 45, into their 50s, into their 60s, who really were not being tapped into. And if these people are going to live to be, let's say, 80 or even 100 in some cases, I have a grandfather who's 103, we need to make sure that they have economic opportunities. There was a dramatic shift away from pension programs, and so we need to make sure that we have continued economic growth and innovation in the job space. And I believe one of the keys will be investing in women as well as the feminine leaders and the sensitive leaders. There are people that are very different in terms of how they think about business. I think a lot of women have been sidelined by angel investors and venture capital because they didn't fit into the masculine model. But indeed, there are many amazing women-owned businesses and that could be invested in to grow, but are not being invested in right now. I think also just having the connections into that angel investor and venture capital space is something that not a lot of women have. And even if they do, I can tell you from many experiences of coaching the most senior level women in the world that oftentimes women have to present themselves in a way that is better than the men, or they have to be more creative or more aggressive to get help or funding. But even then, if they do become aggressive and try and what we call lean in, oftentimes that can actually backfire on them because they're seen as being pushy or inappropriate. And I have seen so many times between the male and female dynamic that when women push harder, the men just ignore them. And therefore, it's really hard for women to fit into this masculine model. And so where I think we need to be going is to have the feminine leadership style clearly understood by both men and women. And it's something that I'm here today to talk a lot more about, and I'm really excited about that. The feminine leadership style is something that is softer, it's more inclusive. It may not be as interested or motivated by just making money, but it's equally and sometimes more motivated through passion or creativity. It's a leadership style that is suited for many women. Yes, there are some women who fit the masculine model of leadership, but in my experience, not the majority and not very many. I think that it's really important that we understand that women oftentimes, on average, have a different style. They have different goals. They often are motivated by feelings. Indeed, if you look at the Myers-Briggs test, 70% of women are feelers on average and 30% are thinkers. And that's typical of the United States, actually. And it's flipped for men. For men, you find that about 70% of men in the U.S. are thinkers and only 30% are feelers. But I think that we need to allow the feelers to thrive and to show their leadership style because they have a lot of interesting creativity. They are innovators. They are sensitive people. They will be thinking about ways to market to people that will need their products and services. For these people, it's not about competition. In fact, I would say that as a feminine leader myself, I don't thrive on competition. I actually don't like competitive sports, although I was a very good tennis player in my day. And I can, I've won skeet shooting tournaments and I've played golf in the past, and I've done a lot of different things in my life. But I found that for myself, I actually enjoy walking on a treadmill and listening to classical music for my exercise. I get a lot of inspiration that way, and I really enjoy some of the quiet moments of exercise, and gentle exercise actually is equally as good for a lot of sensitive people, and I found that's the case for me. And so if someone around me is trying to motivate me into competition, it generally backfires. It doesn't motivate me at all. And today I want to talk a lot more about the feminine leadership style, because I do believe that as men understand it, that they will be able to invest in it and empower it greatly. It's very important that we get the men to want to invest in women. And I have 5 ideas here that I'd like to share today. The first thing that I'd like to say is that what they want to do is they want to show their creativity, and they want to help people, and they want to thrive. These are feminine leaders that I'm talking about. Now, if we invest in them, and the great thing about investing in feminine leaders is oftentimes they don't need a lot of money because they run their businesses very efficiently, and they don't have high risk. They don't want a lot of money. They want some money. I mean, if we invested, let's say, $10,000 in every feminine leader today, we'd get this economy rolling. We'd see a lot of interesting things happen. In some cases, some of the women need $100,000. Other women need $1 million for their businesses. I don't want to downplay what they need, but one thing I do want to say is the women that need the $10,000 are not getting it, and it shouldn't be in a loan. I believe it should be an investment of some sort, and we need to have angels really focused on this. And it may be that what we do is we create a new financial mechanism, and I'd love to talk to Warren Buffett and Bill Gates about this, because I believe that beyond microfinance and investing a few $100s in the women in emerging markets and the developing world, I believe that we need to look at the Western countries and say, here we have this talented base of women, often educated, some graduate degree, many bachelor degrees, entrepreneurial, and we are not investing in this level of talent. And it's really one of the biggest gaps that we have right now. And it's one of the reasons the economy is not growing. If we continue to do things just in the way of investing in the high growth companies, which I know a lot of men are very focused on, we will not grow this economy. We're already seeing that. We have to invest in the feminine leadership style. We have no choice, but it's actually a good thing, because then we will have a lot more economic growth. We will have a lot fewer people depending upon charity. We will have people getting jobs and creating companies that grow and thrive. The second thing I'd like to share about the feminine leadership style today is that it is often misunderstood in terms of what it is. The feminine leadership style is really about conscientiousness. It's about collaboration. It's about inclusion. It could be about conscious capitalism, sustainability, creativity. It's a lot of things, and it's a wonderful leadership style for the 21st century. Now, the third thing I'd like to share about the feminine leadership style is that I actually shared it in 2011 in a World Economic Forum Davos debates video. They placed me on the cover of the Davos debates that year when I stated that investing in and empowering the feminine leadership style is the largest economic opportunity worldwide. And I want to thank them for that again, because it led to a lot of wonderful things for me. The feminine leadership style is probably the most important addition to leadership and management thinking in the 21st century. And the fourth thing I'd like to share about it is that the feminine leadership style was acknowledged by the Thinkers 50 in 2011 in November, when I was placed on that list for the world's top business thinkers on the Thinkers 50 Guru Radar list. The yin and yang of leadership basically combines masculine leadership and feminine leadership, and it points out that you can have one or the other or both, but it values all of those leadership styles. Yes, there are some people who have a combination of leadership styles, but that doesn't mean that it's the best. I think that a purely masculine leadership style is very valuable in some cases, and I think a purely feminine leadership style is very valuable in some cases, and we need to invest in all of these styles of leadership. And the last thing, the fifth thing I'd like to share today about the feminine leadership style is that we need to have it much more profiled in our media and advertising. This is something that is critically important. We need to have more feminine leaders in our advertising, so I would encourage all companies that advertise and all media companies to include it in their editorials, in their writing, in their cover articles, in their pictures, their photos. It is something that is really important, showing feminine style women doing amazing things. It's very powerful. I think that, in some ways, I think one of the reasons that it's not profiled more is because it's actually so powerful that some of the men may be afraid of how powerful it is. But the more that we show it in our advertising and media and writing and newscasting, the more it will be accepted. And therefore, I would just encourage all of you to be advocates for feminine leaders. And any men who have daughters, they're very open to this. And I know, having coached CEOs with daughters and CEOs without daughters, I oftentimes have an easier time with the CEOs with daughters because they get this right away. Women have their own unique style. Each person has their own unique style, their own personality type. But we need to make sure that we're investing in all leadership styles, both masculine and feminine. And I look forward to sharing more in the very near future. This is Sandra Rupp. I'm signing off for now, and I'd like to thank you for listening. Many thanks.